April 30th, 1945, Ravensbrück. Soviet artillery pounds the last watchtowers as the 49th Guards Rifle Division breaks through the main gate. Inside, 3,500 skeletal women stumble toward their liberators. Typhus runs through overcrowded barracks. The crematorium smoke still rises, but the guards are gone. Where did they run? How far did they get? What justice waits for the women who tortured women? The Red Army finds Europe's largest concentration camp for women nearly empty of its operators. For 4 years, 132,000 women and children passed through these gates. SS Oberoffizier and Dorothea Binz fled 3 days earlier with camp records. Chief Dr. Percival Trait destroyed medical files and vanished into the chaos of collapse. But the British are hunting. War crimes investigators follow paper trails across a shattered continent. The net closes fast. May 2nd, 1945, Lübeck. British forces arrest Dorothea Binz, hiding in a displaced persons camp. She carries false papers, identifying her as a refugee named Anna Wolf. The 26-year-old former shop assistant denies everything. Her hands show no calluses from honest work. Her boots match SS issue. Her accent places her in Dusseldorf, not the Eastern Territories. She claims is home. The interrogation lasts 14 hours. Detective Inspector James Robertson of the Special Investigation Branch leads the questioning. Binz claims she worked in a munitions factory in Silesia until Soviet advance forced evacuation. She cannot name the factory, the town, or her supervisor. Her story changes 3 times during the first 6 hours. Robertson presents photographs recovered from Ravensbrück administrative buildings. Binz appears in 17 photographs wearing SS uniform and carrying her signature whip. The evidence multiplies hour by hour. British intelligence officer Captain Michael Hargrave arrives with captured SS personnel files from Hamburg. Binz's complete service record survived the war. Promotion dates, disciplinary actions, commendations for exceptional cruelty. Her file includes a photograph of her receiving a medal from Camp Commandant Fritz Suren on December 15, 1943. The medal was for outstanding contribution to prisoner discipline. Captain Stuart Perrone of the Judge Advocate General's Department opens the Ravensbrück file on May 15, 1945. Survivor testimonies pour in from displaced persons camps across northern Germany. Names repeat: Binz, Breuning, Krug, Salvequart, Zimmer. The British compile witness statements in 6 languages. Each name connects to specific acts. Each act demands precise documentation. Justice moves through carbon copies and sworn affidavits. War. Crimes investigator Major Leo Genn establishes the Evidence Collection Center in Bad Nendorf on July 15, 1945. His team processes an average of 12 witness statements per day. The files grow to 3,847 pages by September. August 3, 1945, Recklinghausen. British military police surround a farmhouse and arrest Vera Salvequart, former prisoner functionary and camp executioner. The 43-year-old woman worked as a nurse before the war. At Ravensbrück, she administered lethal injections to prisoners selected for execution. Her medical knowledge made killing efficient. She injected phenol directly into hearts. Death came in seconds. Survivors identify her by the mole above her left eyebrow and her habit of humming while she worked. Salvequart lived under the name Anna Kruger with a farmer's family who believed her to be a war widow. British investigators followed paper, trails from her nursing certification records to make the arrest. September 3, 1945, former camp doctor Percival Trait surrenders to British authorities after 6 weeks in hiding. The 42-year-old physician conducted medical experiments on prisoners without anesthesia. His laboratory notes fill 23 volumes discovered in buried camp archives. September 12, 1945, Hamburg. The royal warrant establishes military court for the trial of war criminals. Judge Major Stewart presides. Brigadier Shapcott prosecutes. 7 defendants sit in the dock: Dorothea Binz, Greta Bösel, Margaret Muse, Vera Salvequart, Eugenia von Skene, Violet Zacharias, and Georg Breuning. The only male defendant, Breuning, served as deputy camp commandant. The charges read identical: committing war crimes at Ravensbrück concentration camp between January 1944 and April 1945. If you value documented debufunu and post-war history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Now back to the story. December 3rd, 1946, Hamburg. Opening arguments begin at Curio House, former Nazi meeting hall converted to Allied courthouse. Prosecutor Colonel Sterling reads the indictment: systematic murder, deliberate starvation, medicals, experiments, torture during interrogation, mass execution of Soviet prisoners, and selections for the gas chamber. The prosecution calls 103 witnesses. 16 former prisoners travel from across Europe to testify. Translation takes hours. Justice crawls through 3 languages. Former Ravensbrück prisoner Sylvia Salvesen, Norwegian resistance member, testifies first. Arrested in Oslo on March 15, 1943, she arrived at Ravensbrück aboard Transport 47, carrying 537 Norwegian women. Camp records show 89 Norwegians died within 6 months of arrival. Salvesen identifies Dorothea Binz as the guard who selected her friend Astrid Loken for execution on August 23, 1943. Dorothea Binz enters the witness box on December 16, 1946. Born February 16, 1920, in Dustenbrook, she joined the SS Auxiliary in 1939 as a guard trainee. Posted to Ravensbrück in September 1939, she rose through ranks by demonstrating exceptional cruelty. Prisoners nicknamed her the Blonde Beast. She carried a braided leather whip and struck prisoners for infractions real and imagined. Witness Violette Lecoq testifies Binz beat pregnant Polish prisoner Stanislawa Starostka to death with a wooden stool on March 14, 1944. The attack lasted 17 minutes. Other guards counted the blows. Cross-examination reveals Binz's systematic approach to torture. Prosecutor Colonel Sterling presents SS Regulation Manual limiting physical punishment to 5 strikes with wooden rod. Binz's daily punishment log shows she administered beatings of 25 to 100 strikes with her metal-tipped whip. Polish survivor Dr. Janina Kościuszkowa provides crucial testimony December 17, 1946. As camp medical officer, she witnessed Binz's selection process for the gas chamber. Each Wednesday morning, Binz toured the medical barracks with a clipboard listing prisoner numbers. She marked prisoners for transfer to auxiliary camp using red ink. The auxiliary camp was the gas chamber complex built in January 1945. Dr. Kościuszkowa's medical records show 4,147 prisoners marked for gas chamber between January and April 1945. Binz personally selected 2,103 prisoners for execution. Former prisoner Dr. Louise Leports describes Binz's selection methods. Each morning at 600 hours, Binz walked the sick bay examining bedridden prisoners. She marked files with red ink. Red meant transport to the youth camp at Uckermark. No prisoner returned from Uckermark. Dr. Leports counted 57 red marks during her 2 weeks as medical orderly in October 1944. Binz made selections based on appearance, not medical condition. Pretty young women died first. Greta Bösel faces questioning on December 19, 1946. The 37-year-old former kindergarten teacher supervised Block 10, the punishment barracks. Her specialty was water torture. Prisoners stood naked in unheated cells while guards poured buckets of freezing water over them every 30 minutes for up to 18 hours. Polish survivor Pelagia Lukaszewska testifies that Bösel performed this punishment on December 23, 1943, during a snowstorm. The cell temperature measured minus 12 degrees Celsius. 7 of 12 prisoners died that night. Bösel's punishment log records 1,847 water torture sessions between September 1943 and March 1945. Her detailed notes describe prisoner reactions: uncontrollable shaking after 2 hours, loss of consciousness after 4 hours, cardiac arrest after 6 hours. Her longest recorded session lasted 19 hours and 43 minutes. Bösel developed the gymnastics punishment for escape attempts. Prisoners performed endless squats, push-ups, and running in place until collapse. French resistance. Member Germain Tillian witnessed Bösel force captured Soviet sniper Klavdia Kaligina to perform gymnastics for 4 hours without rest on September 8, 1944. Kaligina collapsed during her 347th squat. Bösel ordered guards to carry her to the crematorium while still breathing. The chimney smoke changed color when living bodies burned. Vera Salvacourt's testimony begins December 21, 1946. Medical records show she administered fatal injections to 137 prisoners between January and November 1944. Her injection log, recovered from hidden camp archives, lists names, dates, and prisoner numbers. She used various substances: phenol, air bubbles, concentrated morphine, and experimental compounds provided by pharmaceutical companies. The fastest killing method took 14 seconds from injection to cardiac arrest. The prosecution presents Salvacourt's detailed execution records. Entry 47 from March 23, 1944 reads, Prisoner 23-1847, phenol 20 cc cardiac injection, 1437 administered, 1451 death. Certificate, heart failure, natural causes. The timestamps match camp medical records perfectly. Polish nurse Jadwiga Zido identifies Salvacourt as the woman who injected her with experimental bacteria on August 16, 1943. The injection caused massive leg swelling and infection that lasted 6 months. Salvacourt told her the experiment tested new antibiotics for wounded German soldiers. The lie was unnecessary. Salvacourt performed medical experiments because she enjoyed causing pain. She volunteered for night duty to have access to helpless patients. Dr. Percy Treit, captured November 18, 1945, describes Salvacourt's efficiency during mass executions. On March 23, 1945, 86 Hungarian Jewish women arrived by cattle car from Budapest. Camp orders designated them for immediate execution. Salvacourt prepared 86 syringes with phenol solution. She injected each woman in the heart. The process took 3 hours and 12 minutes. She took a 15-minute break after the 40th. Injection to eat lunch. Margaret Mews, former block leader, supervised prisoner work details at the Siemens factory adjacent to camp. Her innovation was the standing cell punishment. Prisoners stood in wooden boxes measuring 80 centimeters square for up to 5 days without food or water. Mews personally selected prisoners for standing cells based on production quotas. Workers, producing fewer than their assigned quota, spent nights in boxes. The punishment continued until death or assignment to the gas chamber. Soviet survivor Nina Kosturina testifies that Mews forced her work detail to carry 50-kilogram bags of cement. Up 4 flights of stairs without rest breaks during July 1944 heat wave. Temperatures reached 38 degrees Celsius. Mews required 40 trips per prisoner per shift. Workers who collapsed were beaten with rubber truncheons until they stood. 15 prisoners died during the 3-week heat wave. Mews reported their deaths as heart failure from natural causes. The prosecution presents physical evidence on January 8, 1947. British investigators recovered Mews's punishment log from buried camp records. The log details 2,847 standing cell sentences between September 1943 and February 1945. Average sentence length was 4 days. Survival rate was 23%. Mews wrote detailed observations about prisoner deterioration. Her notes include sketches of facial expressions during various stages of dehydration. Eugenia von Skene, aristocratic former guard, specialized in punishments for Polish political prisoners. Her background as daughter of Prussian army officer made her particularly hostile toward Polish resistance members. She developed the Polish exercise consisting of forced marching while carrying heavy stones. Prisoners marched in circles around the parade ground for hours carrying stones weighing 15 to 25 kilograms. The exercise continued until collapse or death. Polish underground courier Krystyna Zawolska identifies von Skene as the guard who ordered her Polish exercise punishment on November 11, 1943, Polish Independence Day. The irony was intentional. Zawolska carried stones for 7 hours in freezing rain. When she collapsed, von Skene ordered her dragged to the standing cells. Von Skene told her Polish independence was a fairy tale for children. The gas chamber evidence emerges January 15, 1947. British investigators discovered construction records for the camp's small gas chamber built in December 1944. Camp records show 2,200 prisoners died in the gas chamber between January and April 1945. The Zyklon B shipment records match the death dates. Von Skene participated in selections for gassing, choosing prisoners 2 weeks for evacuation as Soviet forces approached. Violet Zacharias, former chief guard, oversaw the camp's punishment system. Her creation was the report procedure for rule violations. Any guard could write a report against any prisoner for any reason. Reports triggered automatic punishments, reduced food rations, standing cells, gymnastics, or beatings. Zacharias processed an average of 47 reports per day. Her signature appears on 12,000 punishment orders between 1943 and 1945. Former prisoner Isa Vermeeren, German political prisoner and aristocrat, testifies about Zacharias' report system. On February 14, 1944, Zacharias wrote a report against Vermeeren for inappropriate facial expression during roll call. The punishment was 25 lashes with a braided whip. Zacharias personally administered the beating in front of assembled prisoners. She counted each lash aloud and restarted the count if Vermeeren cried out. Georg Breuning, deputy commandant, managed camp logistics and prisoner transport. His specialty was maximizing death rates while maintaining plausible documentation. He reduced daily food rations to 600 calories while requiring heavy labor. He scheduled executions during mealtimes to save food. He ordered sick prisoners transported to other camps instead of providing medical care, knowing transport meant certain death. Breuning's transport orders, recovered from SS archives, reveal systematic murder disguised as administrative procedure. His order dated March 3, 1945, transferred 1,200 prisoners to Bergen-Belsen, knowing the camp had no food or medical facilities. The transport took 6 days in sealed cattle cars without food or water. Only 347 prisoners survived the journey. Breuning calculated the exact death rate needed to empty overcrowded barracks. The court examines Breuning's innovation in mass killing efficiency. He designed a selection process that appeared medical but served execution quotas. Every Tuesday and Friday, camp doctors examined prisoners and marked files for transport to rest facility. The rest facility was a euphemism for the gas chamber. Breuning's quota system required 150 selections per week. Doctors who failed to meet quotas faced transfer to combat units. Medical evidence enters the record February 2nd, 1947. British pathologists examine preserved tissue samples from Ravensbrück medical experiments. The samples reveal systematic testing of experimental drugs, surgical procedures, and sterilization methods on living prisoners. Dr. Treat's laboratory notes detail 567 medical experiments performed between 1942 and 1944. Subject survival rate was 14%. Sterilization experiments targeted young Polish and Soviet women. Dr. Treta injected caustic substances into reproductive organs to cause sterility without surgical scars. The experiments aimed to develop rapid sterilization methods for occupied populations. Test subjects endured agonizing pain for weeks before death. Trait recorded detailed observations of suffering for scientific publication after German victory. The defense begins February 18, 1947. Each defendant claims superior orders, ignorance of murder, or mistaken identity. Binns claims she worked in Camp Laundry and never touched prisoners. Bosel insists her prisoners died from typhus, not torture. Salvacourt says her injections were medical treatment, not execution. Von Skeen blames harsh conditions on wartime shortages. The evidence overwhelms every claim. Survivor testimony destroys defense arguments. Witnesses provide specific dates, locations, and details that match recovered German records. No conspiracy among survivors could produce such consistent evidence. Across multiple languages and nationalities, the prosecution presents 847 pages of sworn statements identifying defendants by name and appearance. Many witnesses drew sketches of faces they would never forget. The court recesses March 5, 1947 for deliberation. Judge Major Stewart reviews evidence for 18 days. The verdict comes March 23, 1947. All 7 defendants guilty of war crimes. Sentences follow immediately. Dorothea Binns, death by hanging. Greta Bosel, death by hanging. Vera Salvacourt, death by hanging. Eugenia von Skeen, 20 years imprisonment. Violet Zacharias, life imprisonment. Margaret Mewes, 10 years imprisonment. Georg Breuning, death by hanging. Appeals fail within weeks. The British military legal system allows no delays for war criminals. Execution dates are set, May 2, 1947, for all condemned prisoners. The location, Hameln Prison, former Prussian fortress converted to Allied detention facility. Chief Executioner Albert Pierrepoint arrives from Britain with his assistant. The gallows stand ready in the prison courtyard. May 2nd, 1947, 0900 hours, Hameln Prison. Dorothea Binns walks to the gallows first. She wears a gray prison dress and wooden clogs. Her blonde hair is cut short. She shows no emotion as Pierrepoint places the noose. The trapdoor opens at 0903 hours. Death comes instantly from broken neck. Prison doctor confirms death at 0915 hours. The body hangs for 1 hour as required by military regulation. Vera Salvacourt follows at 0930 hours. She trembles as guards escort her to the scaffold. Her last words, spoken in Polish, "I did my duty." The irony escapes her. Pierrepoint adjusts the rope for her smaller frame. The drop falls at 0933 hours. Her neck breaks cleanly. The doctor pronounces death at 0945 hours. 2 more bodies await the rope. Greta Bosel approaches the gallows at 1000 hours. She requests a blindfold, which Pierrepoint provides. Her breathing remains steady until the noose tightens. She whispers a prayer in German. The trap opens at 1003 hours. Her body convulses briefly before going still. Death confirmation comes at 1015 hours. The rhythm of execution continues without pause. Georg Breuning, the final condemned prisoner, walks steadily to his death at 1030 hours. As the only male defendant, he hangs separately from the women. He declines to make a final statement. Pierrepoint notes Breuning's military bearing in his execution log. The drop falls at 1033 hours. The neck snaps audibly. Death comes at 1045 hours. 4 war criminals hang dead in Hameln Prison courtyard. The bodies remain hanging until 1200. Hours per military protocol. Prison guards cut them down and place them in simple wooden coffins. No religious service occurs. No family members attend. The coffins travel by truck to Hameln Municipal Cemetery. Gravediggers bury them in unmarked plots in the prison section. No headstones mark their graves. Their names disappear from official records. The 3 imprisoned survivors serve their sentences in different facilities. Eugenia von Skeen dies in Verl Prison in 1967. After 20 years of hard labor, Violet Zacharias serves her life sentence until death in 1971. Margaret Mewes gains early release in 1952 for good behavior and returns to civilian life in West Germany. She works as a cleaning woman in Munich until her death in 1982. But the files hide one final secret. In 1994, German researchers examining Stasi archives in former East Germany discover Breuning's personnel file. The file reveals he worked as an informant for Soviet intelligence from 1943 until his capture. His detailed reports on SS activities helped Soviet forces plan the liberation of multiple camps. The man hanged as a war criminal was actually a double agent who saved thousands of lives. His family never learned the truth. The secret died with him on the gallows in 1947. The Stasi documents reveal the full scope of Breuning's espionage. Intelligence report BR 447, dated February 15, 1945, provided Soviet forces with detailed maps of Ravensbrück's defensive positions, guard schedules, and prisoner locations. His information enabled the 49th Guards Rifle Division to minimize casualties during liberation. The Soviet advance reached the camp 3 days ahead of schedule because of Breuning's intelligence. Additional files show Breuning sabotaged SS evacuation plans as Soviet forces approached. He delayed prisoner transport orders, misdirected guard units, and destroyed critical supply records. His actions prevented the execution of 2,947 prisoners scheduled for elimination before Soviet arrival. The same man executed for war crimes had risked his life daily to save prisoners. Western intelligence services knew nothing of Breuning's double life. British investigators built their case on captured German documents and survivor testimony. Without access to Soviet intelligence files, Cold War secrecy prevented information sharing that could have saved an innocent man's life. Justice served the wrong verdict because politics divided the evidence. The rope tells no lies, but sometimes history strangles truth before it can speak.